Today's guest has combined a couple of unique items. I mean, this is the first time that I've seen this, combining dentistry and sleep apnea. With these two applications, creating a unique product, a unique service for his patients. But what I like about today's conversation is going to be his journey becoming an accidental landlord, the ups and downs of that path. And then now he's in a place with his practice to where he's going to be a real estate investor. He's talking about now acquiring a building as the practice is growing. So if you're thinking about, owning the building that your practice is in, or if you're in that process, take a listen to this conversation today as we share some of his to-dos and not to-dos so far in this. Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today's guest is a general and sleep dentist in Indianapolis, Indiana. He practices with two of his brothers at Newman Family Dentistry. Dr. Marc Newman is a proud husband to his wife, Katie, and father of three young boys. And I told him before we got started and here at the end too, we could have a whole nother podcast about the family business, right? Everybody, please welcome Dr. Marc Newman to the show. Hey, Marc. All right. So welcome to the show, Dr. Marc Newman. How is it going? How does it feel today to be Dr. Marc Newman?
Hey, man, it's good. It's good to be here. Had a busy morning and just sitting here on my lunch hour, just, ready to talk about, some of the stuff that we do here as a general dentist. I'm a general dentist, do restorative dentistry, your bread and butter type of stuff that people are used to, fillings, crowns, fix people's smiles, clean kids' teeth. But I also, am a sleep dentist as well too. So we treat patients that have obstructive sleep apnea that are either intolerant, non-compliant, or just refuse to do CPAP.
That's interesting. So that jumped out right away to me when I was doing a little bit of research, that combination of the two. Oh, yeah. I have not heard of anything like that. So that was brand new to me. So where you're a dentist and you're treating. So just from the outside looking in, tell me a little bit about how those two things combine. Like, how does a dentist then, is it some sort of fitting, or, what stands out that makes your process different?
Yeah. So the therapy, the treatment that we offer to treat sleep apnea is a dental appliance. It's actually classified as a medical device, but it goes on the teeth. So it's like a mouth guard on your upper teeth, on your lower teeth, and then it just repositions your jaw so it's in a forward position, and that forward position actually opens up the airway and reduces air turbulence to the soft palate of the mouth. And the magic happens. People stop snoring and the airways open and people are happy, feel better, live healthier.
Happier partners too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Interesting. And you told us just a little bit about your journey. So as a dentist, and then also the sleep doctor piece of it as well too. But tell us a little bit about kind of how you got started in medicine and dentistry, and I mean, you told us where you're at now. So how did all of this come about, Marc?
Yeah. So I first gained interest in dentistry when I was a junior in high school. My older brother is a dentist. My uncle is also a dentist. They worked together while I was, in high school. And, I'm a junior and kind of learning a little bit more about advanced biology, stuff like that. And my older brother would throw me some journals about teeth and periodontal disease, and I'd read them and just always had this interest in that. And throughout college, I majored in biology. A lot of my classmates were either pre-med or pre-dental, and just never really got away from the idea of, not only being a dentist, but I really liked my older brother as one of my role models. And I just thought it'd be a good idea that we work together. It's one of our dreams to do that. And after I graduated, college, went on to dental school and graduated dental school. My uncle was, ready to leave the practice, and he stuck around for one more year and, joined the practice. And shortly after that, my younger brother joined the practice. Me and him were only a year apart in dental school. So I had about a year to try and build up a patient base where I could, have enough to, chew on to feed my family and, pay my loans back and all that good stuff. But it was difficult because our practice didn't really have enough patients that my older brother was willing to share with, me and my younger brother. So we were in what I would like to call a dental startup situation where we're basically growing our older brother's practice patient base from scratch, where he has his patients he's accumulated and acquired from 10 years, 11 years prior to my graduation of dental school. And so he's established. My uncle's established too. And then when he left, a lot of the patients that my uncle saw, we had some, attrition, some of those patients left, but then, it just wasn't enough, I think, to keep everyone busy. So that's where my sleep journey came in. I discovered this, multiple ways to try and grow our practice. Usually a new dentist will come in there and we'll see all of the kids and we'll see all of the emergencies and we'll see basically all of the new patients. And that's how you grow. But it grows slowly. It doesn't grow, you have to kind of water this garden. But in what I've learned over the years is that when people come to the dentist as a new patient, unless they have a problem, they just want to come in and get their teeth cleaned and just kind of cycle in every 3 to 6 months and just work on preventative stuff. And there's not a whole lot of money that can be generated from preventative services. So the urgent care that we provided, people having an actual tangible dental problem, a tooth hurts, that's where I did most of my growth, was seeing these dental emergency patients. Tooth needs to be extracted, or we perform a root canal. After doing the root canal, the patient needs a crown. After extracting a tooth, they have a missing tooth, they need a tooth replacement. That's where some of the more lucrative procedures in dental come in. So that's how I really got started with building the dental practice. But also, when you're building a practice with just emergencies, these patients are very nomadic and they're transient. They basically come in and, I need your help now. And then they go away and then they come back in years later. I need your help again. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff. And in combination with growing the restorative practice, with our new patients, our existing patients, I learned how to screen for sleep apnea and tried to build a sleep startup at the same time building a dental startup. And so just, we've been doing this I've been a dentist since 2011. I've been practicing sleep since about 2013, 2014. And we've reached this, point where both I have an established patient base. I'm busy as a restorative dentist. And then I also have quite a big patient base with sleep apnea and a good referral base where I'm now at the point where I'm figuring out the struggle of how to juggle them both and which way to go and improving efficiencies to do, what I do normal, faster, better, and more efficient.
Good. So you're in a good spot now.
Yeah. It's a fun spot to be in.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
You've heard of the 80-20 principle, right?
Kind of. You'll have to remind me
Pareto's
about
principle. So the first thing that popped into my mind there is looking at what's really driving the income. And I'm not a professional business consultant or anything like that, but the first thing that pops into my mind is the 80/20, like what's really driving the income there when we're looking at opportunities either for scalability or increasing efficiencies, of taking a hard look at what's actually going on and maybe putting more focus on those things that are happening inside of there. But here we are on this journey, and we're in a nice spot now, a little 10, 12 years into this thing. So we're getting through this growing the patient base, growing the company. So lots of things in there that we could talk about. But at this point now, I kind of just want to jump into real estate and learn a little bit more about that path for you in regards to maybe, everybody tends to start off on the personal, the private, residence kind of thing, and then into either investment properties or pairing their practice alongside with real estate investment as well, being the buildings that they're in. So, Mark, if you would just give us a little run through or just introduce us to your real estate experience.
Yeah, so I don't have too much real estate experience other than just, my personal residential real estate experience. Like I lived in a condominium for about 10 years, and I was able to actually purchase that irresponsibly with student loans. So I was able to at least have that while I was in dental school, and then after dental school was able to still live there and make my mortgage payment. And then after dental school, or as I became more established as a dentist and met my now wife, started having children, the condominium was definitely the walls were closing in on us. So we kept it for about a year and had it for a rental property. And then we were able to then purchase a home together. At the time, didn't really have a whole lot. As I've been doing this basically startup journey, there's not a whole lot of like lucrative dentistry as far as like what people would think, where I have a lot of extra money to spend or to save. And I was able to utilize this doctor's only loan from our bank, where they gave me 100% financing on a house. So I was able to find like a home that we could afford, and with 100% financing. And then that allowed me to keep the rental. We had to follow some rules as far as like, making sure we had like 6 months of rent in the down payment and all that stuff. We're able to navigate that. And then I was basically a brand new, like, actual homeowner with a rental property. And I thought that was like a good position to be in. But I learned the hard way that rental properties aren't always profitable as far as the one that I had. And it just got to the point where I had a week where my home garage door broke and the rental garage door broke. So I had 2 garage door repairs. And then like the next, maybe a few weeks later, the rental microwave broke. And then I had to buy a brand new one. And here I am, like, my rental property has a better microwave than my own home. And then the next thing I know, the AC broke. And so I found myself like always tackling like repairs on top of, home projects that I wanted to do that I had to postpone. I had a very young child at the time. And so it just always was kind of, every time I thought I got caught up with something, then I'd be behind on something. So I ended up selling the rental property, and it was just a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders. And now I'm just, steady Eddie with my, my home and mortgage. And we're now at 3 children, and sort of feeling the walls caving in on this home. So we're sort of at that point where we're, exploring, buying another home. I'm pushing this, sleep and restorative business into be eligible for a partnership here at the practice, which would then allow me a little bit more financial freedom there. And then once that happens, me and my older brother and younger brother are going to explore, purchasing like a standalone building for the dental practice.
Very, very interesting. And so in my mind, looking back through these things like the expenses, and I actually heard somebody say the other day, they felt like they were hemorrhaging cash. They were hemorrhaging money because these things, when they do happen, certain things, especially if they're unexpected, they'll come in there and they'll ding, and ding, 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 ding. And then realizing that it's not only taking your money, but it's taking your time too. So absolutely a struggle. And you said rentals aren't always profitable, 100%. As soon as you mentioned condo, in my mind, I'm thinking on the cash flow, there's always a big thing there called HOA that's pulling right out of your cash flow. And if I'm shooting for, if the numbers work, it's great. But right out of the gate, typically if you're $100 to $300 a month in HOA, that pretty much would eat, a cash flow scenario on an arbitrage on that.
Oh, yeah. And then like the area where we had the condo, another reason why we moved out, they were doing a lot of real estate expansion in that area, like building a bunch of more condos. So then the inventory in that area became more plentiful, and which the rent there drove our rental price potentially down. And so it just became, in my mind, as a rental, a lose situation. And, with a baby at home and, knowing that we want more children, and, some just things that happen in life, little things you can't expect. I was very glad to get rid of that condo.
Absolutely. And not that I'm trying to persuade you or change you or point fingers at this. I just love sharing these examples. So when it comes up, things that pop into my mind, we talked about first that HOA thing, but second of all, the management, the self-management piece is difficult, because even when you have a property manager, you set your limits on repair costs. So if something is more than $300, then I want to see an email and let me approve it. So I'll still see those, but I don't have to invest the time to go and do it.
Well, and then another stressful thing too was just finding tenants as well too. I mean, that's the thing. If you don't have a tenant in there, then you're on the hook for two payments,
mortgage payments.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were very fortunate to find a great tenant that signed a 2-year lease for us. So then we were able to better prepare, knowing that when their lease came up, hey, we're out. We're gonna get this condo sold.
Yeah, that's a great point. The marketing piece is huge. The time to do that and making sure that it stays, because I mean, even if you're off by $100 on the rent, you can miss a whole month's rent payment. So if we're projecting, say, $2,400 to $3,600 a year in passive income, and we miss one month of rent, I mean, that cuts your cash flow in half. So that idea of having someone there who is able and not only able but good at what they do and marketing the place to make sure that it stays rented is a huge thing. The other thing there, Mark, was appliances. Like, different markets are different, but for the most part, I don't want to provide things that require maintenance. And the only time that I would provide those is when I don't want my floors to be damaged because they're dragging appliances and stuff through the house. Nobody's going to care about your house more than you. So I was just curious, was that microwave like a freestanding one, or was it inside of a cabinet, like a built-in?
It was a built-in. So it had to be a certain size to fit the built-in cabinet. Right. And then also another thing was we couldn't just buy like a cheap microwave. It had to fit the aesthetic of the kitchen appliances. So we had some nice looking stainless steel appliances. So we had to get basically of equal quality to that, just newer. And I'm working with like an old school microwave that came with our new home. And I was like, I just told my wife, I'm like, man, we are like, our old place has nicer appliances than our new place. And I'm buying new stuff for the old place and not new stuff for the new place.
That's tough, man. That's tough. I'm always trying to think of these things like, nice, neat, clean, and mechanically sound is what we're shooting for, and creating a scenario that requires little opportunity for maintenance requests. So and the stuff that I put in there. Now, this is different than Airbnb, where we might have, like a speaker inside of a shower head or something. So it's totally different on the long-term scenario. But when you moved into this is what I think is called the accidental landlord, where you have a house and then it becomes a rental for you. So it's a totally different idea.
And on top of that, the house that we moved into, older home, built in I think 1961. So it had some issues to begin with that we were like, well, we'll tackle these as we go. And then it was in a forest. So we're used to condominium. Mm-hmm. All of our amenities and maintenance is done basically for us. And now we have to take care of our yard, trees. And if you've ever had to do any tree maintenance, it is the least rewarding way to spend money. It's expensive. It's just here's a few $1,000s just to keep raccoons from, climbing over branches and jumping on your house, or, keep your house just safe in general.
Yeah. I laugh because through the years I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on that stuff. So, very cool. And now into this new venture, Marc, with I guess just thinking about the commercial aspect and approaching an acquisition with your brothers on this structure that would facilitate the practice. And I know a lot of physicians that listen to this may have a similar idea, a similar path, or maybe they're currently. Hey, tell us a little bit about how that research process is going. So where do you even start when you think about, hey, we're going to now be real estate investors and own the building that the practice is going to be in?
Yeah, well, we have a broker that we work with that's going to basically help guide us throughout the way. But I think the number one thing that we've been always eyeing out for the last few years, knowing that this is something we want to do in the future, is just location, trying to find the right spot of land to build on, because it's all about access. We want to make sure that the building is accessible to our customers, our patients. And something that where we have 2 office locations, one's in Indianapolis and then one is in a suburb called Carmel, but they're only about 20 minutes away from each other, but they're on the same side of town. So just trying to keep a geographic location that will still allow us to serve our current patient base, but in a maybe bigger facility, and allow all 3 of us, me, my older brother, my younger brother, to potentially practice in the same building. Because right now we're just dividing between the 2. So, and then design we want to be able to design the building to be able to function well. And, these things, as you know, it's when you own a home, it takes probably 1 to 2 homes of just living in them to know exactly how you would want to build your own home, as far as what you need, what works well for you. Sort of similar with the dental practice. We have 2 office locations. They're built out similar, but a little bit different. But now after, working together for a while, we kind of know what we need for a new location.
And are you reaching out and consulting with any other dentists who have done this before already?
Currently have not consulted with any other dentists that have done this.
Yeah, I would definitely reach out and see, if there's a dentist or even another physician that have done this. So right away, I know from my conversations with physicians who acquire and start building their spaces is room for growth. Making sure that you have the ability to do that inside of the current space. So even though you may not be projecting to do another 2 or 3 rooms or whatever it may be,
right,
the ability to do that is really, really important. And then, working with not only a broker, but maybe another investor or even a developer in the way that's looking at the property as a business as opposed to an acquisition. In that property as in a business, looking at, hey, what are some ways that potentially we could generate income? So, is there another space that could be leased on a triple net scenario? Are there other ways to maximize the potential that you guys are creating with this opportunity? So, and if you look back, even in medicine and everything that I've done, when it comes to real estate investing or being a father or, just being a good person in general, when I surround myself with people who are doing what I want to do or who I want to become, those are the moments where I have massive growth. Mm-hmm. And I think we talk about a lot, expanding associations and surrounding ourselves with the people that help us get to these next points. So I hope that this brings some value to you, but man, reach out, get outside of the circle, whether it's even in an REI group. Indianapolis is a great area. Lots of investors there. Carmel, man, I love that. I've been looking at numbers in Carmel for quite some time, and the growth there in the last 10 years is just remarkable. So yeah, I would do it, man. Step outside the comfort zone and look at it. I mean, you guys are working with a massive opportunity here to where you guys could basically be an anchor tenant. And, it just depends. It depends on your path and your risk and all that stuff. But ask the questions and get around people outside of the circle that may have done this already. Mm-hmm. And, could help you with those things. Just like you said, when you're building a house, it takes you 2 or 3 times to figure out what you like. But why not reach out to somebody who's done this 2 or 3 times already and has proof that says, hey, if you do this, hey, if you end cap with Jimmy John's, man, you'll never regret it. It doesn't have to be Jimmy John's, but I'm just saying. Right,
exactly. There's
a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. That's great advice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Sitting on a gold mine. And when you make that transition, DDS to REI, I think there's so much there. So when you guys are going and you're doing it wonderfully, you're taking your time, you're in a place of want versus need. And I think it's just a great place to be, to kind of pair those things in. But now just step back and say, hey, what could this be? You talk with the brothers again. That's a whole nother podcast in itself, working with family.
Right. Definitely.
So just tying that in and just, even encouraging them to get out and talk with other people, because don't get stuck in the physician circle. Don't get stuck in the dentist circle. Don't get stuck just only relying on your broker, because it may not be the exact information that you're looking at. They may be in a different world. So always looking outside the circle. And there's so much opportunity. So congratulations, first of all, on the business path and on potentially the new venture.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a bad joke from earlier. You said you were practicing sleep, and I was thinking to myself, I practice sleep every night. I love
it. That's awesome.
I know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's great. It's a great need. People need to sleep. They need to feel energized so they can, take care of their families, be on top of their game at work, and, make some deals like yourself.
Absolutely. Share the joy. That's what it's about. Share the knowledge.
Yeah.
Hey, if you could go back, Mark, maybe 10 years, 10, 12 years, go back and you could stand beside somebody who maybe just finishing up med school, getting out practicing, whether it's in dentistry or general medicine, what's something you would tell that person?
Oh man, I just think it's important to just, get as much experience in several different locations, different offices, different types of offices, and really figure out what works well in your hands and your practice. One of my biggest regrets is that, but also biggest blessing, was that I joined the family practice. I didn't go out and experience another dental office ahead of time. I didn't, bounce around and explore. I just went straight into the family dental practice, and it didn't provide a whole lot of, initial revenue for me at first, or financial health at first. Had to build that. But, and then the student loan issue associated with all that kind of, bogged me down for a minute. But, I just think it's important to just get out there and focus in on developing your skills, but at the same time, be mindful of the, loan repayment process with that. So then, my friends that really focused in on the loan repayment, like they're 10 years out now, debt free. And then they have the opportunity to really, explore real estate investments and opportunities and, put some gasoline in the fire.
Yeah. I always told everybody that, we actually leveraged private debt. So private money, getting into real estate. And I always tell everybody it is the nitrous oxide to our racing engine. You know, it is the alcohol. It is what fuels the fire. But I love that, mentioning that, kind of like getting the culture and the diversity of experience when you can, because we talk about that a lot in travel. I love traveling. I love going to different places and experiencing culture, and I hear that in what you're saying is do that in your practices too. And, you know, that way you find, maybe you find your gift that way. Maybe you find your niche that way. And then focusing on debt. I echo that as well too, focusing on that picture and making sure that you're doing it effectively. Talking about, you know, whether it's credit card debt, student debt, whatever it is, if you have bad debt, we'll call it bad debt because it doesn't produce, you know, immediately. Ultimately, when you invest in yourself, it produces, right? That's the best thing to invest in, is yourself.
Right, exactly.
But if it's unsecured debt, those are the best ones to target, and paying down that high percentage first, especially if it's like credit card. And, you know, I just talked with a guest here on the last show. This is exactly what we're talking about. So you hit it right on the nose, man, with paying that stuff down and getting out. So, man, I just appreciate your time, Marc. Thank you so much. And if anything, man, I hope that you just plant that seed in your mind and let it say, hey, who else could I talk to about this? Don't rely solely on a broker. Don't rely solely on an investor. Don't rely solely on a contractor. Figure this out. Reach out to people who've done this already, and, you know, find that way through. I'm sure there's tons of forums out there, like White Coat Investor, even Bigger Pockets, those kind of things where you can connect with other investors, other real estate investors, developers, and say, hey, what are we really working with here? Yeah.
So, that's awesome advice. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for your time. And the website, I just want to point that out too. It's indysleepapnea.com. That's where you've got these two things connected, right?
Yeah, so that's my website for the oral appliances for sleep apnea. That's my main focus. When you say 80-20, I'm trying to push that 20% that I'm doing in sleep closer to, you know, 50 than 80 and so on and so forth. So yeah, so that's what my primary focus is right now. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, concerns about their sleep, going down the journey of a dental device, it's like you said, you had not heard of it, so it's still relatively new, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Awesome. And they can also find you on LinkedIn at Dr. Marc, just DRMARC. That's at LinkedIn. So, well, thank you for your time again today, sir. And all the listeners out there today, thank you so much for your time and attention. A great conversation here today, just wrapping up the accidental a landlord, you know, going into now this opportunity of being able to potentially develop a new spot. And hey, let's develop the idea. Let's develop the potential inside of these opportunities. And we do that by connecting with each other. If you guys want to connect with us, if you want to be a guest on the show, please send us an email, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you know of anybody else looking to maybe do something similar to Marc, let's start a conversation. Let's start talking about this. So until next time, appreciate you. Real Estate Mogul MD.